Trump is on the hunt right now to find leakers of intel, and that's a lot easier said than done. Fox News correspondent and top former defense attorney Gregg Jarrett on what it would take to stop all of this. I always love talking to Greg on this because he can answer all my dumb questions. First of all, I guess it depends on the leak, right? I mean, you had John Kelly saying, you know, some of these border on treasonous, but again, that's severe. But how is it handled?
Well, some leaks are more illegal than other leaks, believe it or not. If it's top secret or classified, then you're talking about serious punishment upon conviction. If it's military matters and national security, that's a different federal statute, but also a crime. Even non-classified government leaks can be a crime, although generally it's administrative, civil penalty, you lose your job, and so on and so forth. But look, right now, this is such a torrent of leaks that's bedeviling the Trump administration.
It's certainly more than we've seen in the past.
I have never, you know, I've been doing this for 30, 40 years. I've never seen it like this before.
And why can't they do a lie detector test or something like that?
Well, they can, and oftentimes they do. And now because of electronic communications.
How reliable are they considered? In a court of law, let's say you're thrown out because the lie detector test shows, you've been leaking.
Circumstantial evidence. Now, the lie detector can't be used in a court of law, but other electronic communications can be. So,
but would the president be free to fire you, even though it might be considered circumstantial, based on...
Sure. I mean, the president can fire anybody in the executive branch for a reason or no reason at all. Witness James Comey. He's entitled to do that. In fact, he has the constitutional authority, believe it or not, to tell Comey to stop an investigation. You know, past presidents have done that, dating all the way back to Thomas Jefferson, and JFK and LBJ also did the same thing.
All right, so we do have precedent for leakers and how to deal with them and all, but we also have when the national security is at risk, like the Pentagon Papers you and I were remembering. The courts ultimately ruled in the favor of the Washington Post and the New York Times releasing this stuff. What was their argument at the time?
Well, that was a prior restraint case, and the court issued a test. If the government interest outweighs the public interest in receiving the information, then that's a crime. For example, if you disclose troop movements at time of war, it's hard to justify the public's interest in that, and you're jeopardizing human lives. So that's a clear-cut case in which it is a crime. But it's a balancing test. And look, the courts have been rather mixed on this.
And it was the environment, too. The Vietnam War was very unpopular. Pentagon Papers revealing a level of deceit kind of confirmed our worst suspicions. But in this case, Greg, I mean, how far do you go? I mean, let's say you were able to round up those who were giving away secrets. Then what do you do with them?
You prosecute them to the full extent of the law, because some of this information, as it relates to, you know, the counterintelligence probe of the FBI, all of that's classified information. For example, the worst of it is the leak of Michael Flynn's name and the information contained in his communication with Sergei Kislyak, the Russian ambassador. That was incidental collection. That's classified information.
But what if it's a lot of people doing it? Like you said, we
prosecute a lot of people. You know, we have empty jail cells. You know, let's prosecute that. And look, the leakers don't necessarily have a First Amendment protection. You know, the courts have generally said,
they don't call themselves leakers. A lot of time people will see this. I was watching another news channel that leans slightly left, saying these guys are whistleblowers. That's who they are.
And we have a whistleblower statute that lays out the way you go about disclosing information.
But a leak
properly.
is a leak is a leak, right?
You don't leak to the you don't have whistleblower protection if you leak to the media. You must do it to Congress, generally speaking, or another agency that oversees the subject matter of the leak.
Like you said, in prior administrations we've seen this. But you don't round up a lot of people. If the past is any prologue, we don't. And here we have the potential to, because there are a lot of people doing it, right? I mean, and it might have been happening before the campaign, during the campaign, after the campaign, right through the early months of this presidency. Then what?
Well, and it's especially tricky since some of the information took place before Donald Trump was sworn into office, so he's technically not a government employee. So it depends on the nature and who's doing the leaking and so forth. But you're right. Look at the Valerie Plame affair and Patrick Fitzgerald, who was doing the investigation. You know, there was only one prosecution, Scooter Libby, and yet there were dozens and dozens of leaks.
That created a big rift between Vice President Cheney because the guy wasn't exonerated.
So it's hard to find the leakers. It really is.
Do you think, though, let's say you do, Greg, and all of a sudden you think the embarrassment and the publicity of one, two, several, you're getting cited, revealed, would stop it?
Yeah, you would think so. It has a chilling effect on the leakers.
Yeah.
You know, if they get away with it for so long, they figure there are no consequences. There has to be legal consequences to stop these leaks. It's classified information. It's a crime.